Fantastic, guys. It's really a special day for me, for DSD. Starting today, this new show, this new podcast, Coffee Break with Coachman, where I'm going to be interviewing the best brains and the best personalities, the most influential people in our dental business. From business perspective, marketing perspective, clinical perspective, research, academics, laboratory, technology, digital. I will go after the people that are really making the difference. And for me, was always an idea to do that, since dentistry gave me so much and allowed me to travel the whole world and really allowed me to meet brilliant people, that I always had this dream of sharing this knowledge and connecting to these people and allowing these people to speak to more and more colleagues. So this will happen through the show. This show is supposed to go live once a week, hopefully every Tuesday around lunch break, around the time that you may be having a coffee, relaxing between patients, or just having a break during your busy day. I hope that whoever is here with us today will be able to spread the word, share the link, and allow more and more people to be connected to us. We will also be receiving questions and information from all of the viewers, and feel free to send the messages. We will try to bring them together at the end of the show, do some Q&A, or even respond later on to the questions. And since I mentioned that my dream was to connect with the most brilliant people I know in the industry, and I was thinking about with whom I should start this, which guest should I invite first, and I couldn't start in a better way than with my dear brother in dentistry, my mentor, Professor Marcelo Calamita, my partner since ever. We've been working together since 25 years, and as I tell the whole world, he is the best prosthodontist that I know. Even though I worked with some of the best, I always mention that. I'm super proud to work with him, to research with him, to publish with him, to lecture with him. And also, for me, this is an opportunity to share a little bit with everybody all the insights that I learned from Marcelo. So I want to thank Marcelo for being part of this first show. I know he's in the middle of the day, busy office, extremely successful office. He was able to cancel 1 or 2 patients, open some space for us, and be here. Welcome, and thank you, my friend, for being part of this moment.
Hi, Christian. For me, it's a pleasure to be part of this very first Coffee Break with Christian Coachman. One more initiative. I think you always bring good things for the dentists in general. We open our minds. You try always to bring good stuff, new ideas for the world of dentistry. For me, it's a pleasure, always a pleasure to be part of one more project with you.
Great, great, great. And Marcelo, since you've been around, you've been lecturing, and I believe that people are really getting to know how good you are, with the concepts, the dental concepts you all of us. But I wanted to start with a quick introduction from you, so the ones that don't know you get to know you, who you are, your background, what do you do, your academic background. Who is Marcelo Calamita?
Oh, Marcelo Calamita. I am a prosthodontist in São Paulo, Brazil. I graduated 30 years ago, and also I did my master's, I did my doctoral program at the same University of São Paulo. Since then, 30 years studying hard almost every day, that. And now in different projects, not only lecturing, but also trying to write something and to bring into a text, to bring in a textbook some of our great ideas and some knowledge, some reviews of the literature, and everything I think will make the difference for the dentists.
And to start, I would like to ask you, you mentioned 30 years already in dentistry. That's a lot. Many years treating teeth, recovering and rehabilitating people. What were your initial dreams when you started to think about becoming a dentist? You don't have a dental family like many in dentistry. Why dentistry? What were your initial ideas about this profession?
Oh, Christian, I started from scratch, and I started in a small office, and I wanted always to build something great. And my ideas are always in the beginning. I call the first phase of our professional life is time to survive. It's a period that I have to learn to reinvest the little money that you make in knowledge, in materials, in equipments, always trying to work with the best technicians, because we also learn a lot from the dental technicians. You were one of my dental technicians. I learned a lot with you. I know that we have as a prosthodontist, we have to have a great interaction with the dental technician, because you can learn a lot. So my ideas from the beginning was to be the best as I can. I try every day. I wake up trying to improve myself in every detail of my personal life and also my professional life. And I think we have to all the time to strive and to search.
Even before that, when did you decide to go through dental school? How old were you? Why you picked dentistry?
Well, I always liked medical science, but to be a doctor at that time, I was pretty young. I thought that I should invest a lot of my time, because I had an uncle at the time, and this uncle didn't have time to his family. He was always like out of his house, like working until late at night, working on holidays, this kind of things. As a clinician, yeah, he was a doctor. So I used to see this kind of things, and I didn't at that time. I didn't think it was a good thing for the balance of the life. And so, as I like medical science, I choose dentistry because I think I could manage my time. I thought at the time, and I could choose the best thing to do, and I could
more freedom on the schedule.
Freedom of schedule, yes, freedom of time. And you know that it's not exactly like this, because today I am slave of my office. I work until late at night. But as I like the things I do, it's not. I don't feel that I'm working until late at night. I just like doing the things that I like most, and it's not exactly a work, but I work very hard, and I work around 10 to 12 hours per day, seeing patients.
But you still have that sense, you still have that feeling as you own your schedule, even though you have to work many hours a day, somehow that whenever you want to give a break, you can break. Whenever you want a day off, you can have a day off. So somehow this freedom gives us this perception of control of the schedule, right?
Exactly. We feel like this. We can control sort of sometimes the patient's rules here, because the patient sometimes, I need this to do. You have to make this until this date. So sometimes we are not like that. But most of the time we can control time. Yes, you are right.
And during dental school, it's always a period where I think when you enroll into dental school, you have one perception, but as you go through dental school, you start to realize other things, for better or for worse. During dental school, did you have any doubt about the profession you picked, or did you just year after year got more involved and more passionate about it? How was the dental school period?
Yeah, before going to dental school, I went to the pharmaceutical science, and I wasn't happy with this school. And so after going to the pharmaceutical side, I choose dentistry. And to be sincere, I like a dentist from the beginning, from the first class. I think it was like maybe anatomy. I thought I like it a lot, and I thought at that time that I think I'm going to like this. And of course, you have some discipline that you don't like so much, especially the basic ones. But from the beginning and during the university, I like it more and more, the school. I was like, at that time, I wasn't like a brilliant student because I always was very focused and what were the most important things to pay attention. I was like I liked sports at that time. I liked, of course, leisure, to have like some spare time for me. But I was always very focused in the most important things that I could learn from the university. And when I really love it, when I got in touch with prosthodontics, it was with fixed prosthodontics at that time, like the very first lecture. So wow, I love it. I love it, and from the university.
Because for me, the first 2-3 years were a nightmare with all those basic scientific disciplines. But
biochemistry, histology, microbiology, wow.
All these ologies, amazing for me. Didn't make sense at all. It was very tough for me. But I can see that you're much more biologically driven since the beginning, and that made dentistry much more related to your wishes and dreams. Did you have any real good teachers during dental school? You had mentors at that time. Who were your mentors in dental school and right after finishing dental school?
Of course, the mentors, actually, we have this kind of mentors that teach you a lot, especially in the area that you like most. For example, in prosthodontics, I have one that I remember a lot. His name is Silas da Cunha Ribeiro. He was very nice, because once I got one example, when I graduated, the first rehabilitation that I did in my office, when I finished the rehabilitation, I cemented the case, and I cemented it wrong. It just was like a aesthetic, like it was like something like 10-unit bridge. After the cementation, I realized and noticed that something was wrong, and I took the phone, the telephone at that time. He answered me back, and he said for me, Marcelo, prosthodontic is the art of redoing things. So get used to it. You are not the first one. Don't worry. And then my first big case, I have to redo it like in a couple of weeks because I cemented it wrong. Can you believe this? I cemented a rehabilitation wrong, and I have to redo it. So he was so nice. But of course, I had more. The department of prosthodontics at that time was great. Like I had a lot of mentors: Ivo Contin, Mori, Lupi, Fernando, Claudio Sendic, and others that helped me a lot, especially the first years when I was like a fellowship, when I was doing my fellowship, my specialization course, and masters and doctors. They helped me a lot.
And as soon as you finish dental school, we usually today things are much more clear, and we know that as soon as we graduate, nothing is clear. We know that we can pursue an academic path, we can pursue a clinical path, and today even pursue a business path in dentistry. As soon as you graduated, did you know you wanted to become a teacher as well, or you were just focused on becoming a great clinician? How much of business you knew at that time? Did you have any clue about how to run your clinic from the business perspective, or you just started as a clinician and learned with the flow?
Well, at that time, we lived in a very romantic time of dentistry. Oh, my dream was to be a great clinician, to learn and to be a good, to do in order to be able of doing great rehabilitations, full mouth rehabilitation. So that's why I have to study. I study a lot to be able to do that. But I thought at that time that being a teacher, being a professor, I could improve a lot of my skills being a professor. And it's right, because when you study to be a professor, when you are able to transmit your knowledge, your knowledge is you learn much more. We learn much more when you are a professor.
I usually say that when you try to teach something, that's when you realize how much you don't know about it. And
Exactly.
when you are able to combine that knowledge, you learn a lot just by trying to be a teacher. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I think when you study to transmit these things, you have to go deep into the subject, and then you learn much more. So I think both things were together, being a professor and also in the clinical practice. But in the beginning, I realized that I should, in order to be successful in money-wise, in terms of money, also I had to run a successful office. So of course I started like in a small office, but thinking big. So if you ask me how should you think about that? We started in a small office, but you have to build a great network with colleagues, prospect good patients, and you have to develop different skills such as understanding people. I mean, empathy. You have to develop empathy, because
you were always very pragmatic and very down to earth. So financially, you were a very solid guy, meaning you were always very organized, and probably you can confirm you started to look for information about how to manage financially, the basics, right? The basics.
Exactly.
Of how to manage business properly. But do you think that at that time you knew exactly what you want, where you wanted to be in 5 or 10 years? Did you have strategies, business strategies?
Yes.
You were just treating one patient after the other, and let's see where it takes you.
It was 1988. So in Brazil, we didn't have like enough education about marketing strategies. But I start reading books from the United States. One that I think it was great at that time. It was written by Linda Miles. It's called Practice Dynamics, with very good tips about how to run a practice, about how to make plans, and how do you accomplish these plans. So from the beginning, reading not only this kind of books, but also books about neurolinguistics, then how to settle the plans. Then you have to write the plans down. You have to write the plans, and you have to every year, every period of time, you have to read the plans that you wrote down and to check if you are going to the right place. But since the beginning, it was like 30 years ago, I wrote down my plans, and I used to check every period of time, every 5 years, if I was in the right place. Right. And to be sincere, I was surprised to see that I was always better than I initially planned, in terms of like a professional career, and also in terms of
compensation. Yeah.
Compensation. Yes, exactly.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that you were above the curve there as a young dentist, investing on preparing your career from the business perspective. I think today everybody knows about that, but 30 years ago was something very unique. See you preparing yourself preparing to succeed. The other thing that was very interesting as we grew together, me as a technician, you as a dentist, I remember that we started to lecture together right at the beginning, more as a fun part, right? As something good for our ego, something that was a lot of pleasure to be able to share a little bit of what we were doing, even though we were just starting. And then as things start to evolve, your office really took off, and my career went. I was moving to Team Atlanta, and then lecturing became very strong. And I remember a certain period where you came to me and you said, you know, Christian, I really don't have time to lecture anymore. We've been doing this together. I'm going to have to slow down. My office is growing. This is where my money comes from. I really need to focus on this. And that's when kind of our careers kind of deviated a little bit, where I went full power on lecturing, and you went full power running your office, even though you always had the teacher inside of you. And then more recently, I remember maybe, I don't know, like 5 years ago, when you were already at the top of the career as a professional, as a clinician, amazing office, very profitable. You came to me and said, you know, Christian, I need a break sometimes. You know, I want to invest a little bit on my lecturing career again. You know, anytime you see a possibility, just connect me, bring me back to the circuit. I think that's a beautiful thing, to break the monotony of my daily dental work in between four walls, every time doing the same thing. So what do you think? Do you think you got into a balance now? And what is this balance for you between profitable clinical career and a successful career as an international speaker?
You know, that is actually we discussed that with our friends speakers, because it's very difficult to balance. Some of them very successful in terms of speaking worldwide, speaking everywhere, and you know that sometimes they miss the balance, and it's always not good. This is not good for you. This is not good sometimes for our health. So it depends on your time, like on your family time. I think when my son, my kids were pretty young, they need me to be close to them. Nowadays they grew up, so I have more time, because if I'm not at home, there is not a big problem. So it depends on the time of your life, but inside of me, I always had, I felt that I need to be like in the circuit. I need to share, because when I share the things, I force myself to study. I force myself to improve myself. So that's really important for me, because the life in the office is also very monotonous. It's every day is the same. Even if when you do very big case rehabilitations, at one time of your life, after 30 years, all the rehabilitations are even. So I know how I'm going to start. How I'm going to finish. I know how much time I'm going to take. So that's why when you travel, when you meet people, when you get together, and when you exchange ideas, this is very, very nice. And the good thing is, you know, we together, we get very nervous before the lecture, when we are preparing the lecture. But after the lecture, when you see that the people like it, when you see that you help it, that you could add something, sometimes small, sometimes bigger for the people, you felt that this is kind of...
It's re-energizing. For sure, you come back to work on real patients with much more energy and more proud of what you're doing. So since I always appreciate your insights when it comes to how to find balanced solutions, what do you think today is a good balance for you? And I see that you achieved that. You're working in your office. How many days a week? How many hours? How much time are you able to spend with family per week? And how many weekends per month do you actually accept lecturing and traveling?
I refuse some lectures. I refuse some lectures during the year, because I try to travel just one weekend per month, and sometimes depending on the event, depending on the meeting, 2 times per month. So usually I give one course per month, like the course usually we run from like Thursday to Saturday. So and one lecture per month. So that's usually I separate 20 days per month to my office and 10 days because I have to travel and then lecture and then give a course. So 20 to 22 days per month in the office and 8 to 10 days traveling and giving course. This is my balance nowadays.
And your wife is happy with that structure today?
Actually, my wife, I'm in this point of the life and this level of my personal and professional life because my wife supports me a lot. She's very kind. She's very nice, and she understands that it's good for me. So when I try to quit, she told me, no, this is important for you. I will understand. Of course, I try to make a balance. When I'm at home, I try to be with her and with my family. Every weekend we are together. We go to we make all the things together. But it's very important for you to have support in your personal life with your wife. For women with the husband is so important.
I was asking, I know your wife very well. I know she's really, really supportive and special and gives you the whole structure for you to pursue what you need. It's great when they can understand the fact that you're traveling to re-energize and to share, to learn, come back and be able to produce.
Exactly.
So the toughest moments in your life, I would say, if you can look back, managing a big, successful, career now with traveling, it's a moment now that you achieved with the kids are grown up. You have the moment that everybody goes through when you're already kind of successful, but the kids are very small and you're starting to relax a little bit and you have this responsibility to make more money. You have also the moment of survival you mentioned right after dental school where you have nothing to lose, but you have many hours to put to create something, From all these moments, do you think that today you are able to have more free time for yourself? Because some people make more money, it's different, huh? Some people make much more money today, but they somehow have less time for themselves.
Yes. Actually, today I used to comment that at that time when I was doing the master, for example, I didn't have time. But nowadays my time is more scarce. I have less and less time, especially because nowadays we together we write articles, we give some lectures, and nowadays I'm writing something else. So nowadays I can tell you my time is very short because I have time like to write late at night or a Sunday or Friday, or a Saturday or Sunday in the very early in the morning. So that's why I don't have too much time nowadays, Christian.
That's exactly why I asked, because as we get older, theoretically we are getting more successful. Theoretically we are making more money, but we are not usually having more time.
Exactly.
And that is that's a challenge that we need to face as success happens and grows. I see many people actually having problems on improving their quality of living. Success comes with less quality of living. So the word success is actually relative. As we see certain moments in our career, I remember, for example, when I was an employee making very average money, nothing at all, and I had an amazing quality of living, almost no extra responsibilities, very little stress, doing decent work, but in a very stable, balanced life. And I compare to today, sometimes we see people like us losing themselves and not actually improving quality of living.
Yeah, if you like what are you doing, like if you think that you are improving yourself, that you are making you are making progress in your life, I mean, in all sense of life, I think it's good for you. Even when you are tired, even we are overwhelmed with a lot of responsibilities. That's why because people look for you and invite you to be part of some teams, to be part of some commissions, to be part of some boards, and it's very hard to say no. And so you accept, and it brings more work for you. But when you like the work, you can just of course, you have to be organized, you have to be disciplined. And if you are organized and disciplined, you have time for everything. Usually people that don't do nothing don't have time. People, when you do more and more things, you always have more time. It's amazing to think about this kind of process.
I agree with you. If some of these tasks become hobbies, and many of the very hard things that we've been doing lately, and you as well, it's not work anymore. It's a hobby. Right? It's really a pleasure. So that helps on the balance, for sure. Now, moving into a little bit more to the clinical perspective, but also related to business, we know that dilemma always, quality, delivering quality, caring for the details, but at the same time be efficient and profitable. A dentist has a very challenging task because we are on healthcare, we take care of people. But at the same time, we run a business, many times different than a physician that is working, for example, for a hospital and just taking care of people. We need to sell. We need to be profitable. We need to be efficient. So yes, you can do a crown you can bond 6 veneers in half an hour, or you can bond 6 veneers in 3 hours. And this balance is always so challenging and is always a topic for discussion. We see people discussing the limits, and right in between everything, there's ethics, right? There's ethics and your principles. And I know, I'm asking this because I know that you are extremely ethical and you're extremely good with your clinical procedures, but at the same time, you're very pragmatic. You don't waste time with things that may look good on pictures just because they look good on pictures.
Exactly.
So what are your thoughts on these two worlds that I call the lecturing world of fancy la land things that don't matter, with the real world of taking care of people and making money?
Yeah. You know me for 25 years, as you told. You were my dental technician. You know how I used to work since that time. And at the beginning, unfortunately, I lost a lot of cases. I didn't take pictures because I was at that time focused on practicing on my clinics. That's why I lost a lot of good cases. But the problem is you have to plan. You know that I plan a lot. I know every step. I try to master every step of the process of doing a crown or doing a rehabilitation. And the word is being effective, being efficient. So you have to know and which point you have to what point in what point you have to reach. Of course, ethics, precision, making things that, for me, make things that are going to be durable. But I don't waste my time with things that I don't think it's necessary, because today in the meetings they are becoming more entertaining than actually educational, and people show things that, to my mind, that is not critical. For example, of course, you can discuss a lot of different things, but of course, people say in the meetings that rubber dent is absolutely necessary. You know, from the literature, a lot of papers that says that it is fundamental, and some papers that don't say that. Of course, the important thing, just to mention, is you have to control the moisture. Of course, you cannot do adhesive dentistry in the middle of water or moisture or saliva. But for many cases, for example, to bond veneers, you don't need to make to use a rubber dent and cement one by one, because it doesn't make any difference on the long term. I can tell you, like, I have case from almost 20 years without rubber dam. Of course, good isolation, good modified rubber dam. But for me, it doesn't make any difference. But for example, other things that people don't pay attention, for example, occlusal equilibration, people don't study, people don't get deep into it and don't pay attention. And if you don't adjust, if you don't make a perfect occlusal equilibration, the treatment, the crown, or the rehabilitation simply won't last. To my mind, this is the kind of thing that I think is important.
I think there's two passions that we share in dentistry. I think one is treatment planning and the other one is occlusion. We've been studying it together since the beginning. You translated Peter Dawson's book to Portuguese. I think that needs to be mentioned. Your passion for treatment planning, does it come from Peter Dawson, from translating his book, or is just part of your character? You know, you were born to be an engineer and then suddenly you became a dentist? Because I don't see many, you know, I've been a technician, so I've been working with many dentists. At the beginning of my career as a technician, as you're not good yet, you work with average dentists, then you get better. So I work with everybody from A to Z. And that's why I always mention the passion for treatment planning is a must, and not many professionals invest necessary time to become good treatment planning. As you always say, as we learned from John Coyce, right? A risk assessment, decision-making process. I love these two sentences.
Yeah.
Where your passion for treatment planning comes from?
From the beginning, amazing, because you know that sometimes some words or some concepts, when like DST, the first time you brought the concept to me, maybe I was the first one, and when you brought it, I told you it's good. It's good. Let's write about that. Let's develop that from the beginning, because I'm very insightful when I think that things that can make the difference. I believe and I support this. I was always like this since I was a child. I was a student. We have
support DSD probably because you saw different than most of the people. Most of the people, when we started with DSD, saw designing smiles, making simulations. You saw making drawings to see better, and by seeing better, making better decisions, and by making better decisions, treatment planning better.
Exactly. And also as educational tool for the patients, because as doing the very that initial drawings, very not sophisticated ones, the patient could understand from the beginning what were idea and can discuss with you the better approaches from the beginning about the
This
DST.
was another factor, communication, right?
Exactly.
We were always into communication. I can say that maybe both of us inspired a lot on this topic by my father as well. That was inspired by the book from Pankey and then Rick Robley's book. Both very focused on trying to teach us that most of our problems are because of lack of communication, right? And
exactly.
From the beginning, you were always studying a lot how to improve your communication skills with the technician, with the team, and with the patient.
Exactly. So in the beginning, so I was in the department of prosthodontics, and my mentors, I was very surprised, and I got like astonished seeing how they could plan very complex case and very quickly. And from the beginning, I thought I have to know that, because this is the most important thing. Because when you look at the patient, like the complex one, removable prosthodontics, not fixed one, or implant prosthodontics, and you know what to do, when to do, how to do very quickly, you can save time. You don't need to redo things. You can save your time and his time. So I learned that from the beginning. And at what time? It was the golden age of occlusion. So we have a good department of prosthodontics and occlusion, and then Pete Dawson was needed to be translated into Portuguese, and this Professor Silas da Cunha Ribeiro, he got some people and a translation team to translate Pete Dawson's into Portuguese. It was in 1990. It was a lot of time ago.
Amazing book, by the way.
Actually, one of the most comprehensive, one of the most complete books ever written. Amazing. But Christian, going to speak more, you have to read more than this. Usually people that read Pete Dawson think that is enough. It's not enough. You have to read more. You have to read Oakson. You have to go into John Coy's course, Frank Spears, and others. So there is a lot of good references there in the field of occlusion. Not only Pete Dawson's, but a lot of good references in the field of occlusion.
For sure. So if you could summarize, trying to think that you are not yourself and you're looking at Marcelo Calamita as the dentist, what are the main strengths, clinically and psychologically, of Marcelo Calamita, the doctor? And what are the weaknesses?
This is, it's hard to say that. But, you know, my main strength as well was being very focused and disciplined. When I don't know something, and you know that, I studied, I go hard, I look at people that knows, I can cross the ocean and go to the people that can give me the right answers. That's important. Who can give me the right answers for that? So I cross the ocean and I can.
It's amazing how much you study from the beginning. I watched your whole career, and I was always thinking one day he's going to slow down on studying, and you never did.
Actually, nowadays I'm worse than ever. I'm studying more than ever because I'm doing a very comprehensive review about the topics I'm supposed to write down. So that's I'm studying hard, more than ever. But I think maybe
I want to take advantage, Marcelo. I want to take advantage here to say that Marcelo, is writing a book. Everybody will be anxiously waiting for this book that hopefully will come out. Actually, both of us are committing to this. So we are already extremely busy, and now we are committing on writing a book that is a full-time job for the next 12 months. It's going to be crazy, but we have an article coming out that you were the head of this article with me, and we had the honor to have John Coyce on this article. There's going to be like a little preview of your amazing book. But definitely organizing the thoughts and focusing is one of your strengths. Weaknesses.
Yes, weaknesses, also the weakness. I'm working also trying to improve my weakness, like being impatient. People, I explain very well, and people who are around me, they know how I work. So I try, when I have to explain second time, third time, that I'm very impatient.
I remember a story with you working because for people to know, you used to work for my father right at the beginning, and his office was the prosthodontist of our clinic. I was just a student at that time. And I remember my father coming to me and saying, we have a new prosthodontist in the team. He's amazing, but he's not really good with people. He has no patience. He explodes. And I remember you several years afterwards, because when we are there being nervous, we usually don't admit that much. And that's what slows us down on getting better. And I remember you 5-10 years afterwards saying, I was super impatient with people. I realized that. I focus on getting better. And today patients actually like me, even the mad ones, even the tough ones. I'm able to really have the patience to bring them back, to settle down, and to go around the problem and bring them back to my side. I remember you telling me that.
Yes, I changed it a lot because I recognize that empathy, that leadership, all this kind of things makes all the difference. I learned a lot of also with your father, with Robert Coachman. He was like a great guy in this kind of personality traits. So I try to improve myself in everything that I think it's not good, and this kind of impatience was not good for me at that time. So good things because I'm very focused, disciplined. But when people around me wasn't like that, I usually lose my patience. But nowadays I'm much better. I think it makes a huge difference in terms of personal relationship. And I learn a lot also with my wife. She's so kind. she taught me so many good things, and she taught me a lot.
For
She
sure.
was the great person. I learn a lot with, and also with my kids, because when you have
That's a
kids,
natural learning process.
exactly, when you have kids and you see their difficulties on simple things that you didn't have when you were a kid, for example, and you feel that you have to be different, you have to be more patient, and it's amazing. Sorry?
Accepting the difference, accepting
Exactly.
different skills and different challenges that people have. That's definitely with the kids you learn a lot. Another thing that I want to ask you, since I also learned a lot from you when going to conferences. You know, dentists, they love to go to conference. We go to congresses. We watch a lot of hours of lectures from others, you know. And we know that the key is to have a very good filter when you're listening, because the information is so big. And if you combine with internet and with everything that you can reach today, the problem is not anymore reaching the information, but is filtering the information, finding what really matters. And I remember a process that you always did when we were going to congresses. You would make notes of all the lectures, and on the flight back, you would summarize those notes. Like you were one of the few guys that will actually, it doesn't matter how good or bad the lecture was, you were like, if I'm here sitting and I'm watching, I'm going to take advantage of this, you know. I'm going to watch this guy, I'm going to make notes, I'm going to ask if needed, and then I'm going to compare the information that he gave me with the information that I have. I'm going to cross this information, I'm going to question this information, I'm going to summarize this information, and I'm going to make a conclusion out of this, you know. I'm going to take home something.
Exactly.
So if you could give a strategy, an advice for young dentists, or even all dentists that are going to meetings, you know, how do you organize yourself to take the best out of conferences and lectures?
You summarize it very well. But first of all, when I go to the meeting, when I go to the course, first I like to know who is going to be the speakers. I don't know. I'm not going to the meetings because it's in a nice venue, in a nice country, a nice city. It's only because the people who's going to speak there. So I know their strengths. I know what can I learn from every one of these teachers. So that's important to know, maybe the research, the line of research, if it's a good clinical or if it's a good researcher, or this kind of things. When you are there, one very important thing is, if you don't take notes, research shows that you only retain 20 to 30% of the information. That is not good, because some of this information you are not ready to keep with you. Mm-hmm. Maybe in the time of your life, a good piece of information was given and you are not ready to understand. That's why it's so important for you to take notes, and sometimes later I mean, can be hours after, or can be days, or can be years. When you take a look at that piece of information that you wrote down, you say, wow, it was there I remember years ago.
I remember us going back to your notes of congresses like 5 years before, and we were talking about something, and you were like, I remember this, somebody said something, you went back to the computer, you found the notes, the summary, and then we brought into the discussion extremely useful. So
exactly.
Really amazed. That's why we called Marcelo the dental encyclopedia, the human encyclopedia.
This is important. I learn like this. I have to learn in a very this is systematic and step by step. That's why I take notes. I rewrite the notes, and I check if the line of thought is okay. That's why. You know that when we give lectures, I try to make a very nice line of thought to be understandable to people, understand especially very hard topics like about occlusion, treatment plan. That's why, because I streamline my line of thought learning with others.
But that's why that's why you're a good teacher. It's a specific skill that not everybody has, you know. Being a great clinician is completely different than being a great teacher. You are one of the few that I know that can combine both for real. There's very few real teachers around, people that can actually understand the thinking process and organize this. Showing off with beautiful cases is great, but that's not being a great teacher. We're being a real teacher. So you were able to organize your thoughts in a way that you can teach them. And that's a beauty, because when you try to understand the way you think, you then are able to teach others, because you know why you think that way, and you can break down your thinking process into steps.
Exactly.
And you always work like that, creating steps in even your notes and your procedures, and then being able to share those steps with people, bullet points, the famous bullet points,
Exactly.
the thinking process, and this also helped you. We are talking about going to conferences and congresses, and last year you were the president of the Brazilian Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry. And live here on the course, I want to congratulate you again, one more time, for the amazing event you put together, making Brazilian dentistry even more respected outside. I think that you made the transition, and the Congress that you organized last year will be forever in history as the moment where Brazil got the credits that we deserve here. The event became at the same level at the best events in the world, for sure. And I hope that starting from that event, from now on, this event will stay there, and I'm sure it will stay there at level. What did you like the most? Because putting a Congress together is like putting a lecture together. It's like putting a story together,
Exactly.
Everything needs to make sense. The speakers, the sequence, the topics, how you manage everything, even the party, even the social events, everything is part of a big story. This is what makes beautiful congresses. What are the highlights you think about how you put the Congress last year together? What was your process of putting the Congress together, conceptually speaking? And this may help people to evaluate which Congress should they go. There's so many Congresses. Which Congress people, when you look at the Congresses, how people can see this is a good Congress, was well organized, well thought out.
Yeah. First, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. But you already told the right things about it. You have to have a story. First of all, I started from a topic, from the theme. The theme of the Congress was being complete. Being complete, I mean, as a clinician, as a person. So I tried to make a sequence of lectures, of activities that I think could add some important, not only information, but capabilities or competences for the dentist. So not only clinical, not only technical, but also business competences, also administration competences, also psychological competence. So you have to write a story, and you have to invite the characters for that story, the best speakers in these topics that I think it will make the difference. You have, of course, to be like open to what's happening today, and to invite very current topics, very important things that can make the difference for now and for the future. That's why, for example, I invited your father to talk about the dentistry, the human part of the dentistry in the past, you to talk about tendencies, and then people to talk about psychological aspect of something, and the marketing and the social media, all these kind of things that can add important things. The dentist cannot only think about technical part. The technical part is only one important competence, but you have to have many others. Like you have to know how to take pictures, you have to know how to manage your team, you have to know how to control, how to organize all your office, everything. That's why I wrote the story, and then I invited people that can tell the story in the best way.
And which meetings, if you could give a list of 3 or 5 meetings internationally that you think every dentist should try at least once, what would be your list of the top dental meetings?
Okay, in Brazil, of course, the traditional Brazilian Society of Aesthetic Dentists, that you be the president in 2020. Congratulations for that. You deserve, you represent the Brazilian dentistry in the highest level. You are being representing for almost 15 years already. I enjoy a lot. I like one congress that have the highest level, also the European Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry, American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry, the Quintessence in Boston, like International Journal, Peri-Restorative Dentistry in Boston, the Ceramic Symposium also in that LA. Usually it's taken LA or San Diego. I recommend also John Coy's course, John Coy Symposium, Frank Spear also. And there are, you mentioned about mentors. We did great mentors, Christian. Like we have to thank like Nitsan Bichacho, Galip Gurel, Eric Van Duren, Fradiani. They are very good references. One of the very serious people that can teach us a lot of things.
And to finish, Marcelo, since your patient is probably I want to finish with one final philosophical question, and that is, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Professionally speaking, let's say from 5 to 10 years, do you have very clear in your mind where you want to be? What do you want to achieve? What are the next steps? Is there something left? How you want to be professionally and personally in 10 years? Completely retired?
One thing that I really know, when you say that I'm very successful, but I'm not rich, so I have to keep working. But the important thing, and I don't see myself retired because I love what I do. What is important for us, for me, and probably for you, is to keep being influential, to keep having nice ideas, and to keep helping and anyway, people at improving themselves also. So I want to keep have the balance and also the mind, and also the auto-criticism to know until what time I can help people, because I don't see myself retired. Maybe I reduce the number of patients that I see because it's very tiring. Even my back, my column is not, it's, nowadays not the same.
How many days a week you want to work in 5 years? How many days a week you want to work in the office?
Maybe 3 days working and lecturing more if I can, because lecturing, I'm just like transmitting, experiencing, and this is a very good thing. But the work with the patient, work like this,
what do you want for your office as a business? What do you see for your office? Is your office going to run without you? Do you plan on somebody taking over? Do you plan on selling your office to a big corporation? Are you bringing younger dentists to take over? Do you have a business plan, an exit plan, a business model for your office?
My son is going to the dental school. Maybe he can help me in a couple of years. But if I didn't have any kid, like I have 3, maybe one or 2 more, they can come to my office. I don't know, maybe 1. And of course I would like to sell. I would, of course, because to sell or bring in good people to work here, and then I'm going to work as a consultant, like an administrator, like doing the treatment plans and talking to the patients and recommending the best things, and also making critical steps in for some patients. That's the thing.
DSD company is hiring treatment planners, so if you ever need a job,
Thank you. Of course, if I can help, of course, we can work together. I think this is the future, Christian. This is, dentists need treatment planners. You mentioned a very important thing, because the machines can make the technical part and more, but the brain, you cannot replace the brain.
So
So
your
that's
brain,
why I
so
need to
your
do my
your
planners.
brain, we need your brain.
Of course, we can talk about that later. Offline.
Well, we are very sharp for two Brazilians. We started exactly on time, 3 p.m. Brazil time, and we are finishing exactly on time, 4 p.m. Brazil time. I want to thank my dear brother Marcelo again for being here with me, with us. The ones that watched live, I hope you enjoyed. This interview will be available. We continue to be available online. We're gonna have the link being promoted everywhere. And next Tuesday, I will be coming back with another surprise, with another great professional that hopefully you will enjoy. We will gonna go over now the questions that were made during the show, and hopefully we will be able to answer all these questions during the week. And that's the intention. I hope you enjoyed Coffee Break with Coachman. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Super Marcelo Calamita. Thank you, my brother. See you around. Let's schedule dinner together. We need to chat.
Thank you. I thank
And
you, Christian.
thank you, everybody. See you next time. Thanks, Kirk and Ben, for the organization of the event, ACT, and Best Practices Show. Big hug to all. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.